Since the retirement of Usain Bolt, who's going to win the men's 100 meter dash every year has been an actual debate. In the 7 global championships since 2016, we've seen the title change hands every time except once. And even then, the win was so unconvincingly tight, there were tinfoil hat conspiracies arguing who had actually won. The fact is, this decade we haven't seen anyone dominate the track like nearly every other in history. But this one race seriously might just change that whole narrative.
Pulls away from the field, Keen Blake. Here comes the villain.
This weekend I was enamored by the Jamaican National Championships, which of course, since it's Jamaica, is headlined by its sprints. So let's break it down from the men's 100 meter semi-finals. In Semi 1, Oblique Seville ran one of the most uncoordinated, blazing fast races I've ever seen. Starting well, transitioning well, before doing what looked like a rugby step mid-race, easing at 60, then speeding up a little again.
Easing, pulling up, but comes across the line in front.
Seriously, can you recall a run this bizarre and effortless that went sub 9.9? And at the minute, it was the fastest time in the world for this year. And I say at the minute because in Semi 2, that would be less exciting, in the regard that it would be Thompson all the way from the start, slightly letting go at the line.
Field, making it look easy, easing at the line, flash time.
But still hitting the ground hard, 9.80 seconds. Seville held that world lead for mere minutes. So come final time, we'd have our 2 favourites, and we'd get the answer to that earlier bizarre run by Seville. As lining up in the blocks, he's feeling so much discomfort, he actually puts his hand up and requests medical attention. For some hindsight, in this moment, it was bad enough he was considering pulling out of the race. His singular shot this year to make the Jamaican team, to step foot on the world stage. But after some stretching, he makes a decision to risk it and run anyway. So finally, heading into the final, that gives us 2 very different perspectives on how we can watch this race. The first is to focus on lane 6, how softly Seville runs the first 40 metres, fearing injury, at a clear deficit by 50 metres, before closing stronger than anyone else in this field. His time, 9.83 seconds, barely offers PR like he's running on ice skates. Another glimpse into Seville's insane potential, but with injury looming over him, whether he can actually bring this form into this championship season without problems is a big what if. While the second and more mainstream perspective is to focus on lane 5. Kishane displays unmatched power, a commanding lead by 40 metres, and dominantly pulls away to the time we saw across headlines, 9.75 seconds.
That is next to a miracle.
As well. 9.75 is the official time.
This time is so silly fast. It's the equal fastest time we've ever seen in Jamaica, which as a statement speaks for itself, only equal to Johan Blake in 2012, and it's the fastest time we've seen in an entire decade. The last time seen anything like this being Justin Gatlin in 2015. It also nestles him neatly atop this generation of sprinters, that being 6th on the all-time list, only behind the Big 5, which are the literal legends of legends in this sport. So while Seville displayed incredible potential through bad circumstances, Kishane simply showed us what he's capable of. He's announced he's dominating this year. I mean, obviously I could be wrong, but let me spit. Kishane's 9.75 at a near neutral wind and sea level has put him in a realm that is untouchable to most sprinters. It's not about showing up on the day anymore and running a 9.8. Guys like Benerick, Tobogo, Blake, with their PRs, don't really stand a chance of winning anymore. So that really only leaves a tight-knit group of sprinters who even have the possibility of beating him, the 9.7 guys.
Alexandre Gressley's come back to him for 9.77.
And look at this massive margin. Fred Curley, 9.76.
Is Ferdinando Manyala and improves on his time. Ferdinando Manyala.
And then some other stragglers, debatably just outside this conversation. But even then, a lot of these sprinters might not even have the chance anymore, because although you might not be able to tell since Kishane is as big as a house, he's the youngest at 23 years old. No one in this group is near that age except Seville, but again, he's outside that 9.7 range and now hurt on top of that. And I know an argument could be made here. With advancements in all aspects of elite sport, older athletes are running faster for longer. But when we start talking this fast, it's just not quite the same. Of the 13 fastest men ever, all the men in history to have dipped into that 9.7 territory, the average age they first run 9.7 is 24.5 years old. The average age they ran their personal best was 25.3 years old. And on average, the last time they run 9.7 is 26.3 years old. That's a pretty damn tight window. And even considering individual data, because clearly, these men aren't the average, only one man has run 9.7 at age 30 plus, that was Justin Gatlin, and one at 29 plus, Usain Bolt. So as the facts stand, of the 6 athletes within that 9.7 range, in about 2 weeks, only Kishane will be under the age of 28. So yeah, it's not impossible for these guys to challenge him. But if history is a good indicator, the odds are simply getting slimmer every day. But that's just the quantitative data. Analysing the circumstances of every 9.7 runner today is even more damning. Kishane himself now has the equal highest 9.7 performances at 3. These were done across the last 2 years. Additionally, out of the 14 races in that time span, he's only ran above 10 seconds 3 times. Twice been in prelims. This man is a masterclass in consistent speed, and to be honest, unlike any of the men chasing at his back. Fred Curley is the only man on this list who also has 3 9.7s, although they were all ran within the time span of a month and 10 days in 2022, and since then, he has shown absolutely zero consistency, struggling to even crack 10 this year. Christian Coleman ran both his 9.7s 6+ years ago, but after getting banned for doping, he's never ever looked the same. Trayvon Bromel's 976 was ran at altitude, while his 977 was a phenomenal feat done at Miramar. He's also one of the fastest men this year with a 984, but nearing age 30 and in his first season back after his 3rd catastrophic injury, the odds are tough but not impossible. Omanyala has infamously ran his 5 fastest times all in Kenya at altitude, including his 2 9.7s, and being completely honest, he's a bit of a fraud as being one of history's fastest men. And then there's Noah Lyles. His singular 9.79 was a near perfect race for him, and that won't cut it this year. But more importantly, where even is he? He's injured, and keeping quiet trying to salvage this season. It's not rocket science, and because of that, he's absolutely cooked. He's proven each year he's a slow starter, both literally and in terms of how his season progresses. Without having raced, he's going to be in real trouble finding a medal this year. So considering all these circumstances, do any of these guys really sound like they're going to beat Kishane? And even then, let's be real. Half of the guys I just mentioned weren't even a part of this conversation before Kishane ran 9.75 anyway. And guys who maybe you thought should be in this conversation, Tabogo, Simbine, Benerick, simply aren't fast enough anymore. Kishane is heading into this year outright the fastest, the youngest, the most consistent, and has 0 fraudulent times or controversies tied to him. He's finally stayed injury-free, kept focus, even ran through the line, and this is what we've finally gotten. We saw the potential last year, and now he's finally living up to it. I can't imagine anyone's going to beat him.
Honestly, that wasn't really the best execution I have done in training or at America.
And since we're 8 minutes in, we should probably move on to the women's 100 meter. This year has been all about Shelly Ann Fraser Pryce's final season and revenge arc. Born the same year as Usain Bolt, she won the 2008 Olympics, 2012 Olympics, as well as countless medals after, even winning gold as late as 2022. Imagine Bolt racing a 2022 Fred Curley. But 2025 she's still here, trying to make Jamaica's World Championship team one more time, but it wouldn't be easy. In Semi 1, Shericka Jackson is rediscovering her form. 10.94 seconds, conserving energy at the line for the final. We know she can be a killer when she's healthy. Semi 2, Shelly Ann would match up against Tia Clayton, one of Jamaica's up-and-coming turbo twins. And I'll be honest, she got outclassed in every section of this race, blown apart at the gun, and the gap only grew from there on.
It's Tia Clayton ahead of Fraser Pryce.
Tia equaling her personal best with a 10.86, while Shelly looked perhaps a bit unprepared. In Semi 3, Tina Clayton, the slower of the twins, looks a little less explosive off the gun than her sister, but she absolutely eats up the straight to 10.93. So the seedings heading into the final were looking clear. Top 3 make the cut, the Clayton twins and Shericka the athletes to beat, Shelly Ann on the chopping block, and she looked like she knew it.
There's some who could say at this stage, oh, maybe she's not expected to make it. She always just finds a way. She delivers.
Set position. Bang out quickly, Fraser.
Let's slow it down. I'll be honest. At 40 meters watching this live, I believed Shelly Ann was as good as dead. The twins ahead of her, Shericka who has the back end speed, maybe an inch behind. But in a moment that could be used for the definition of bittersweet, Tia who ran 10.86 in the semis, pulls up, and Shelly capitalizes.
Tina's still there. Tina Clayton, Sherika Jackson, and Shelly Ann Fraser Pryce.
Tina Clayton absolutely claps her personal best from 10.93 to 10.81, taking the Jamaican title.
And honestly, considering the Clayton twins are only 20 years old, they are severely underrated. And while the big three are aging out, they're developing into some sneaky medal threats.
Sherika Jackson goes 10.88, showing signs of life that she's not done yet. And Shelly Ann, 10.91, aged 38 to make Team Jamaica.
Which means across her 18-year-long professional career, she has made 13 out of 14 Team Jamaicas. And the reason she didn't make it in 2017? She was busy becoming a mother.
And to round out a pretty quiet weekend, a performance I had to mention was Chase Jackson's 20.95 meter shot put. That's an American record, and man does this angle suck. What? Like many low-key throwing meets. But that's a Goliath effort. It's ever so slightly just shy of 30 centimeters further than any of the current generation of shot putters. In theory, just throw it like this and she'll never lose again. It also happened to be the furthest throw in over a decade since 2013, which, not to brag, was New Zealand's Dame Valerie Adams, who I see at least biannually in person because that's genuinely how small New Zealand athletics is. And cool little fact, this throw by Chase Jackson is the furthest ever throw by a woman using the rotation technique. Which begs the question, was doping that good back in the day? They were just sliding 22-meter throws? If you want to see what happened in Ostrava earlier this week, click here. Otherwise, Prefontaine is next weekend, which has stacked fields all round. See you then.